No problem. I just wanted to follow up on that. What Lisa just said is completely untrue. Either she doesn't know or she's lying. Because PETA's official stance is that all pit bulls are to be destroyed. Any pit bull that comes into the shelter is to be destroyed.
Do you want to know what PETA's stance is on this?
Oh, it's right here. It's right here. San Francisco Gate, 2005. From your founder. From your founder.
That home has to be good. That means that dog doesn't live on a chain.
But you're not addressing what I said.
We want a ban on breeding pit bulls, and we want a ban on breeding all dogs.
So is what I said untrue?
What's more is we support breed-specific legislation that mandates spaying and neutering.
So is what I said untrue?
Stance on pit bulls.
Here is Lisa Lange. Lisa Lange is the Senior Vice President for PETA, or the People for Ethical Treatment of Animals.
Whether it's because people are breeding these animals for the wrong reasons, because they either want a macho status symbol, or they don't know the tendencies of a certain breed of dog, or really, as Peter would say, no one should be breeding dogs, period, as long as we have the overpopulation crisis that we do. Currently, we hear from so many people who say, I want to adopt an animal from a shelter, which is what we urge everybody to do, and they say, but it's all pit bulls and chihuahuas. So I think we've had an influx of those dogs too, and from our perspective, what we have is a homeless animal crisis, and because those are the two most popular, if that's the word for it, animal to be left at shelters, we kind of have to address that situation as it is now. I think that it is foolish to look at a breed like the pit bull and not recognize the capabilities of that animal hurting other animals and hurting other people. You have to recognize it, and it's a risky situation. If you, for example, were to take a former fighting dog and try to rehabilitate that dog, that is an incredibly risky thing to do based on what we know they physically have the capability to do and what they have been taught to do.
Does that go the same for any other power breed, the Rottweiler and the German Shepherd? Lisa, I wanted to give you a chance to talk a little bit about PETA's position on breed-specific legislation. I think a lot of people might want to try to understand where PETA is coming from on their positions with breed-specific legislation.
Sure. We're in favor of breed-specific legislation. We're in favor of any legislation that bans the breeding of any dog, though. So to follow that through, as long as there's an overpopulation crisis like the one we're facing now, we want to see an end to all breeding. And to follow that through further, that means mandatory spay-neuter laws. That means a ban on breeding, and that's intentional breeding for backyard breeders and people who are careless and just allow their animals to breed and sell the puppies or just try to find good homes. We are also in favor of breed-specific legislation that does require, some of the breed-specific legislation isn't about banning the breeding of a certain breed, it's also about mandatory spay-neuter for certain breeds of dogs. And we are in favor of that. We're in favor of anything that reduces the number of homeless animals.
The American Association of Animal Control Officers all have come out with policy statements saying breed-specific bans don't work.
Don't work with regard to
It's reducing violence against them. Yes, for reducing populations, they're effective. But again, you know, I think as I heard Jim, you said if it was a ban against poodles, PETA would be in support of that too.
Go ahead, Lisa.
Yes.
Yeah.
We want a ban on breeding. As long as there are as many homeless animals as there are in shelters across the country, we don't think we should be breeding one more dog or cat. We can and we should. PETA for years has been writing to every mayor in the country, every governor of every state in this country, saying do your part. And it's better for the city, it's better economically for every city. And, you know, so here's my plea to any mayor or anybody else out there listening to this. We got to get this done like we've done in Los Angeles.
When we talk about breed-specific regulations and insurance costs, communities that will not allow, in some cases you've seen euthanasias, of animals who are being labeled as a certain type of breed. And that I think, is when we've run out of science and instead we're letting emotions determine because it looks like a pit bull, it looks big and scary, it's got black fur, it must be a pit bull, therefore it must be bad. And I think that is as bad as saying males under the age of 21 tend to have higher accident rates in cars than other populations, and therefore we should never allow males under 21 to drive cars. It doesn't make sense.
Lisa, go ahead.
I'm sitting here thinking of which direction to go in on this one, but
Just tell the truth.
I think, from our perspective, we have cruelty caseworkers in the field, and I'd say the vast majority of cases that we're working on are abused and neglected pit bulls. And I think that animal control officers around the country will testify to the same thing. That's why you see anywhere from 30% to 70% when it comes to Detroit shelters filled with pit bulls. I think a large reason for that is because the dog is bred for certain breed-specific characteristics. People do like the macho status symbol. There are a lot of wonderful people out there who are adopting pit bull mixes and pit bulls for all the right reasons, but they are outnumbered by the people who are adopting them for all the wrong reasons, or more to the point, they're not adopting them, they're breeding them. And realistically, we have to do something to address the pit bull overpopulation crisis. And another thing I would suggest on breed-specific legislation is that I think we have to have mandatory home checks for any pit bull that's adopted out of a shelter. You have to go into that home and make sure that dog is not going to live in a chain, is not going to live in a crate all day long, is not going to be trained to the extent that you can check those things, is not going to be trained in aggressive ways to make the dog more aggressive. Without doing that, casting a dog out to a home to say, well, we've adopted out one pit bull, but not knowing what that home is like or how that animal is going to be living is extremely irresponsible. And when it comes to a dog who may have been bred to be aggressive or taught to be aggressive, it can also be dangerous.
You said going out door to door, making sure that if you do have a pit bull, it's not on a chain, or enforcing laws basically.
Yeah, it's adoption standards. We need adoption standards. We need adoption regulations for every dog that leaves the shelter, for every cat that leaves the shelter. And some shelters are doing it. They're doing home checks before adopting animals out. And I think that it's especially important to do when you look at animals who are abused more than others, like the pit bull. When it comes to the economics of it, look at Pasadena. They're going to start enforcing the registration law. They are going door to door soon, starting in September. And they're going to be checking to make sure that every dog in a home is registered. And what that means is they're going to be raising revenue. If you find that you don't have a registration, they're going to give you a chance to register your dog. And from that money, they'll be able to raise money for the shelter. It's the same thing with mandatory spay-neuter laws. If we check and make sure that these animals are spayed or neutered, or more than that, we're all for major licensing differentials. If you don't spay or neuter your animal, you should pay $500 or more for your license, because you're part of the problem.
What about low-income families? What about low-income families?
She's saying, what about low-income families?
Yes.
There are low-cost spay-neuter programs all over the city, and they can get their animals.
But not enough.
We're almost there. We should now turn to questions, comments. It's about a little after 8, and I wanted to make sure we give you guys in the audience a chance to ask our panel members anything that you guys wanted or comment on anything that we talked about today. Raise your hand, and I think people, oh wow, we've got lots.
My name is Pamela Henderson, and I just had a concern, particularly for Lisa and the breed-specific legislation. It sounds like PETA is for that, not the side where they should be spayed or neutered. That's and cease breeding, definitely for that. But in terms of legally prohibiting certain breeds in certain localities, to me, it seems like that's synonymous with discrimination. Just like we wouldn't say, all African Americans should be in jail, all Hispanics should be sent back to Mexico. I mean, that's pretty much the same effect of doing that. And David already talked about the fact that that's really not effective. Why does PETA take that position when it seems to be so discriminatory?
Yeah, no, I don't think that is the position that we take. No, I don't think that is the position that we take. No, I don't think that is the position that we take. And I am speaking to Denver as well, and correct me if I'm wrong, but in a lot of breed-specific cities, where there's breed-specific legislation, they grandfather in existing pit bulls. Animals who are in good homes stay in good homes. No one, well, at least we're not, there may be people out there, advocates going in and ripping pit bulls out of good homes. Absolutely not. So that's not part at all of what PETA believes.
You have a question there?
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on that.
I think that everybody else would want to probably hear your question.
No problem. I just wanted to follow up on that. What Lisa just said is completely untrue. Either she doesn't know or she's lying. Because PETA's official stance is that all pit bulls are to be destroyed. Any pit bull that comes into the shelter is to be destroyed.
Do you want to know what PETA's stance is on this?
Oh, it's right here. It's right here. San Francisco Gate, 2005. From your founder.
San Francisco Gate.
From your founder.
Someone who's worked at PETA for 20 years.
Oh, this comes from
I'll let everybody
Newkirk.
know
We're
exactly
going to let her tell.
So you can lie, but this is Newkirk.
Yes. Go ahead.
Okay. Our stance on pit bulls is that there should be a ban on breeding them everywhere. There's not one good reason to breed one more pit bull. Well, we have anywhere from 30 to 70% of shelters, all shelters have 30 to 70% of their dogs right now are pit bulls. That is a current problem. There is no excuse for breeding more. They're the most abused dog in dogdom. We see it in the field every single day, as do cruelty officers all over this country. We want a ban on that breed until we can bring the numbers down, and every pit bull mix, every Chihuahua, every border collie mix is in a good home, and not just any home. That home has to be good. That means that dog doesn't live on a chain.
But you're not addressing what I said.
We want a ban on breeding pit bulls, and we want a ban on breeding all dogs.
So is what I said untrue?
And what's more is we support breed-specific legislation that mandates spaying and neutering.
So is what I said untrue?
Stance
Hold
on
on,
pit bulls.
please.
So is what I said untrue?
Stance
Hold
on
on,
pit bulls.
please.
My question to you is, do you have an example of a city that has been successful in enforcing spay and neuter laws and the ban of specific breed, of backyard breeding or any sort of breeding? Is there one city that you can give as an example that it's successful?
Well, again, we're looking at this from the perspective of bringing down numbers of the animals. I'm not even aware of, David says it hasn't helped with bites. But when it comes to, I know there is a statistic that when San Francisco passed a spay-neuter ordinance specifically aimed at pit bulls, they said there was a decrease by 24% of euthanasias of pit bulls within just 18 months. You're going to see an immediate decrease in the number of animals going into shelters and the number of animals being euthanized if you require spaying and neutering and if you enforce it. You know, we're very pro-mutt. And
I just want to address something with you, Lisa. I actually have the statistics from the San Francisco Animal Control, and intake numbers for 24 months prior to the enactment of the breed-specific mandatory spay-neuter. Pit and pit mixes intake was 1,238, non-pits 3,312. After 12 months after the breed-specific mandatory spay-laughter, pit bulls went up to 1,565, and non-pits went up to 3,565.
Pretty much.
My comment is, though, is that breed-specific legislation doesn't solve the dangerous dog issue. What does is enforcing the laws and imposing big fines. Enforcing leash laws, anti-peddling laws, anti-dog fighting laws, licensing, spay and neuter. Animals, people who abuse animals, and if you ban a breed, there's still going to be animal abusers. And any person that trains their dog to be aggressive isn't going to stop being to train another breed not to be aggressive. So it's definitely the people and not the dogs. Really quick though, comment to Erica.
Sure.
You had asked a question about rehabilitating these dogs that come from dog fighting rings. I just want to hand it over to Best Friends and Bad Rap for rehabilitating all the dogs. Saying that it was, and I do agree with her, sometimes it's really hard to find a vet that'll spay and neuter your dog. Karma Rescue will spay and neuter your dog for free.
Thank you guys for coming with me. Let me ask, do we have time for, we do. One or two, it's 8:20. If you guys don't mind hanging out with us a little more, then, all right, so let's just do one more. Over here in the center, thank you so much.